know is when kids get a good start, when they come to school prepared, then they are more likely to stay on grade level and not fall behind.
Every country on earth at the moment is reforming public education. There are two reasons for it. The first of them is economic. People are trying to work out how do we educate our children to take their place in the economies of the 21st century. How do we do that? Given that we can't anticipate what the economy will look like at the end of next week, as the recent turmoil is demonstrating. How do we do that? The second, though, is cultural. Every country on earth is trying to figure out how do we educate our children so they have a sense of cultural identity and so that we can pass on the cultural genes of our communities while being part of the process of globalization. How do we square that circle? The problem is they're trying to meet the future by doing what they did in the past. And on the way, they're alienating millions of kids.
Press 1. For tonight's good night in Spanish, please pack your bags and leave the country. This is America, damn it! I want to speak perfect English. I want to speak perfect English. I want to change my life. Is English a tsunami washing away other languages?
I fought to make sure that our kids are taught in English in our schools. We have English immersion now. We used to have bilingual education. I think to be successful in America, you got to speak the language of America.
Many believe American citizens should speak, read, and write in English, and they actively campaign so the education system reflects just that. Take this article from the Los Angeles Times, written and published shortly after the passage of Proposition 227, legislation that effectively barred bilingual education programs in California schools. Like the author of this editorial, proponents of language immersion or English-only systems frequently describe bilingual education as a form of linguistic segregation. Rhetorical strategies such as these can turn personal ideology and emotionally charged arguments into hollow concern for immigrant student rights. This attempt to mask a desire for an America free of immigrants outwardly presents as a caring goal of wanting to give everyone a fair chance to become successful in the workplace. The author asserts that the best way to ensure equity and English proficiency for all in the bilingual education system is to build a, quote, coherent systematic method for teaching children to speak English. In terms of this article, the only way to become, quote, competitive in today's workplace is by knowing English. The idea that students will not be fixed until they're able to perform academically in the English language is not an uncommon insinuation among English-only propaganda.
To do two things. It's got to convey some content. At the same time, it's got to negotiate a relationship type.
Often when speaking of bilingual education, many also highlight English language learners' innate lack of desire to learn the dominant language. This political cartoon questions this misconstruction by emphasizing the man's desire to learn English through his varied repetition of the phrase, "I want to learn English," in both Spanish and English. It is the other man's lack of understanding that is perhaps deliberate, that leads to accusations and framing policies. In a sense, this lack of understanding makes him view this non-English speaker as a threat, much in the same way that discourse around bilingual education focuses immigrants and minorities as a threat to the American way.
away from their children the teaching of the Spanish language. They say the new bilingual education program in the district is stripping their kids of invaluable communication skills. Action News reporter Stephanie Trong is live in Salinas with more for us tonight.
Good evening, Aaron. A group of LSL parents tonight tried to host a forum to push for more bilingual education, but they said some folks here at the district office interfered with their plans. What else has gone bad? LSL parent of 3, Amalia Gomez, is fighting to get more Spanish back into the classrooms.
It's for both culture and when they go to college.
She was one of the parents who tried to host a forum about bilingual education at Jesse G. Sanchez Elementary Tuesday night, but only a dozen showed up. Some parents said people from the district had called them and told them the meeting was canceled. But these parents pressed on anyway, demanding to have the old bilingual program back when teachers taught in both Spanish and English until the 3rd grade. That was slashed to the 1st grade when State Trustee Carmela Franco took over last year. But these parents say their kids' futures are on the line.
I'm going to continue fighting until we get something finally for our students.
Many districts vary in how quickly they will transition their children back into English. So really never allowing children to fully develop their primary language, and then they are pretty much just put into English, and you go back into the sink or swim.
Many students sink. California Department of Education statistics show that English learners score lower on standardized tests than their peers. Fewer graduate from high school and go on to college. But recent research shows students in dual language immersion programs tend to thrive, often surpassing the test scores of their peers by the end of primary school. Some California educators think these programs can help bridge the Latino education gap. Plus, they say the world has changed since California voters decided to virtually eliminate bilingual education in 1998.
But you have to look at, ultimately, what do we want these children to be? Do we want them to be able to compete in a global market? Yes, then it makes sense to maintain their language.
Thanks to positive results, dual language immersion programs are catching on. California schools have added around 100 such programs in the last 5 years. Some 50,000 public school students are enrolled. Most learn Spanish alongside English, but some programs offer Mandarin, Korean, and German. Parents at Los Altos are thrilled. She says her daughter, Ana Sofia, loves the program. She can switch between English and Spanish fluently and with good pronunciation in both languages, without any ums or ahs. English-speaking parents also love the program.
More confidence in her to be able to speak it and to be able to write it is even phenomenal.
Many dual language immersion programs are located in wealthy neighborhoods where highly educated and involved parents demand such programs. But Los Altos serves a lower middle class, largely Spanish-speaking community. That's where parent education comes in. At a recent Latino Education Summit in San Diego, Dr. Cristina Alfaro ran through an exercise with parents. They discussed the positive and negative aspects of different educational models for English learners.
If they don't have the right information, they don't know what to ask for.
Despite their increasing popularity and apparent success, just 2% of English learners are enrolled in dual language immersion programs in California. California law makes it difficult for English learners to receive instruction in their native language. And because dual language immersion students often score lower on tests during their early years, some schools are wary of implementing such programs. They're under federal pressure to continually improve their test scores.